The 5 of discs is called Worry, and on the previous card we had built a fortress around the things in the physical world which meant something to us. From this state, it's rather natural and quite human that we are going to enter into a state of worry about those things. Are they going to stay with us, or are we to become overburdened by them? On the Rider-Waite card we can see that these characters seem to be physically ill or impoverished in some way, and it's a cold, wintral scene. The only glimmer of hope here being the stained glass window, showing a tree of life adorned with the pentacles. One of the characters is looking up at this, perhaps recognising it as a source of hope, and yet the other character walks on coldly by, their face down, facing, as it were, the cold, physical world beneath them. On the Tree of Life, this is Geberar in that world of Isaiah, that physical world. And Geberar could be described as the essence of judgment and limitation. And so we find that some type of limitation, such as the infirmity seen on the Rider-Waite card, limits us either in our accumulation of the physical things we want, or can result in us actually being bogged down by them. And so we see this as well astrologically. It's Mercury in Taurus, and so Mercury is very fast and very fluid, and yet it's bogged down by the much slower energy of Taurus. And in astrology, people of whom are natively Mercury in Taurus are said to be somewhat plodding along through life, and they will get to their destination and their goal eventually, but they're very slow to do so, and they are, in some way, it is said at least, dictated to in their lives by the physical elements around them. They understand things physically, and yet perhaps there is a want of a spirituality. And so we see this very much so on the card. It's an inverted pentagram, and in the background of the pentagrams are the discs themselves, and here they actually look like cogs and gears. And if we have a look, the cogs and gears aren't actually fitting together. So if you try to move this wheel and spin it round so that the pentagram was the right way up, you would find that they were all jammed and that you couldn't do it, so you would actually be feeling trapped in the situation. The inverted pentagram, of course, literally shows us weighed down by the physical world. Usually the spirit is on top, showing spirit comes first and flows down into the physical world, the other points being the 4 elements. When it's upside down, the 4 physical elements are on top and are placed before spirit, and here are literally crushing down on top of the spirit underneath it. We may also notice that the elemental symbols upon this pentagram are not the usual ones that we have seen so far. These instead here are Hindu tattva symbols of the elements. And the tattva means that which is. It's all about trying to understand how something is the way it is, to, if you like, put it into its constituent parts and understand them all perfectly. And so we understand how things have come to be, why we are like we are, and why we are in the position that we are with regards to this actual tarot card. And so the one at the bottom, which is in the space of spirit, is the tattva of Akasha, and it's depicted as an egg. This perhaps shows that with an egg, the secrets of life itself are concealed within. We can't see them because of the shell of the egg, and yet in there are the secrets of the consciousness and the birth into physical form. It may also not be necessarily an egg in some depictions, but the Vesica Pisces symbol, suggesting a fertility present in the universe itself. And so again, that birth of spirit, and that coming in of spirit, like we see with the Tree of Life, coming down into all of the physical world. Here, of course, it is, as we've shown, at the bottom, it's literally feeling the weight of the world on top of it. And by looking at the symbols on top, we understand a depiction of how it feels to be in this state of worry. So the red triangle, of which is the element of fire, and within the actual tattvas would be the tattva of Tejas, or the god of Agni, that we see in Hinduism. This is that burning passion that we've seen before, and yet here we haven't got the burning passion. Instead we feel like before, we're plodding along. We feel that we haven't got the energy to actually get something done. We know what we need to do, but we can't raise within us the desire to get up off the seat, so to speak, and actually go and make it happen. The blue circle, meanwhile, is not actually water, although it looks like it is. This is actually the element of air and is the tattva of Vayu. And this one shows our communication in a matter, so our way of expressing why we feel the way we do. And I think, again, this is why this card is so human. We've all felt like that we can't express exactly why we feel the way we do. Perhaps we will feel we have difficulty in speaking about something because we fear the reaction, or even that we just literally don't know how to put these things into words that can be understood. Now, the yellow square, of which is the element of earth and is the tattva of Prithvi, suggests the physical world, and quite importantly the impact on the physical world of us feeling in this state. And so obviously when we get into the position where we're very worried, we can't communicate, and we haven't got that burning desire to get up and have the things actually taking shape, then we end up falling behind, in our work, struggling in our relationships, in our home life. And so there is a knock-on effect, an actual event of manifestation taking place, but in a way that we don't want it to be, in a way where we end up feeling like we're going down a slippery slope, a spiral, and we think, how am I going to get out of this situation? The final one, which is the silver moon, this actually is the element of water, of course suggesting the movement of the tides with the moon, and is the tattva of Apas. And this represents our instincts, our emotions. And of course, in that state of worry, we are literally worried. Our emotions are going to be all over the place. And very importantly, because we're unable to communicate, it will feel like the emotions that we feel are not being heard, are not being understood. And of course, all these things actually link together on this pentagram symbol, and so one thing leads to another. There is, perhaps, however, an element of hope to be seen, showing firstly within the moon symbol, of which is the tides, and that no matter how high the tide and how violent the ocean, it will change and it will draw back, and as it does so, the weather itself will change as well, and when the weather changes, things will look much different. And so we see this in the background of the card. In the background is a tiny glimmer of light. It is a yellow symbol, of which is the sun, and this shines upon the parts of the cogs and gears of which are not fitting together. And so this is a bit like that light bulb moment where we think, I actually can make these fit together. If I jiggle them a bit and move one to the left and move one to the right, then eventually the cogs will fit together, and I could literally spin it round so that the pentagram was the right way up, spirit was on the top again, and I would no longer be feeling the weight of the world on top of me. And that's the real meaning of this card. It's usually something that's been going on for some time. It's not just the comings and goings of moods, for example. This is a more deep-seated thing. This is something that you found yourself going down that rabbit hole in for a long time, and it often comes up in readings with financial worries and expenses and disruption in financial and job situations, things like that. And it genuinely shows that worrying about them and not doing anything about them isn't going to help. It's going to feel bad when you're in that situation, and you must look for that glimmer, wherever it may come from, that will show you how, as it were, to slot things back together and to deal with them, really, when they come up in our lives, to know what to do, to turn them around so that we end up back on the right track.